The shocking number of
Good evening, America. Tonight, Donald Trump will be addressing the nation. Have no doubt this is going to be about election integrity. It is going to be about the Save America Act. They really want this act passed before the midterms, and that's another issue it's going to be addressed, is to address the midterms. Donald Trump and the administration is fighting extraordinarily hard to have these midterms come out better than they ever have in history. You know, there's not really much they can do at this point. They've been pushing. Iran is a huge issue. We talk about it every night, and we need to. So that's what we're going to talk about. Donald Trump is supposed to be going live any second. I came on live about 2 minutes early just to make sure that we do not miss it. We will be right back. All right, we are back. I got this live stream pulled up. We're just kind of waiting for him to come on, but there's some things that we're going to have to anticipate for tonight. Adam Schiff already came out and said everything Donald Trump says tonight is a lie. Well, we don't even know what he said, right? He hasn't said it. He's just saying that everything's going to be a lie. The Democrats are going to tear apart everything he says. We're going to do our best to live fact check it for you. We're live streaming this from Fox Nation Live Now. Fox looks like there's 215,700 people watching. And we're going to cover it. We're going to cover this whole speech front to back, sideways, upwards, left to right. The only problem is my one screen is going to be completely utilized, so I won't be able to see the comments for the most part. But should be interesting. I just hope we're not waiting for 4 hours. Donald Trump will pull his old show up at 9:45 routine.
Limits on mail-in voting and a much more aggressive federal role in how elections are run. You're looking at a live vantage point of the White House now. We expect the president's remarks to begin at any moment. President Trump and his supporters say that these changes are common sense. They argue that Americans should have confidence that only eligible citizens are voting and that voters who they say they are, and that machines and ballots are secure. For those that are tuning in at the top of the hour, I'm Austin Westfall. We are awaiting the president to give remarks live from the White House. Remarks have not begun quite yet. We have the White House press pool feed, so we have the camera that we know that the remarks will eventually begin on. What we haven't quite got yet is the affirmative that the remarks are going to be beginning and that we can start taking those remarks live and uninterrupted. So
here's the thing. Every time the president comes out to make a speech, this is just me being a little bit honest. All of us, all the media, we run to our computers, we set up our cameras. Is this it?
So his feed just popped up. Let's listen live.
Before we begin,
here we go.
I'm proud to report that our country is safer, stronger, and far wealthier than it has ever been before. We are doing great. Less than 2 years ago, we inherited an economic and social disaster. After the worst inflation in 48 years, the wide open borders with millions and millions of people pouring in from all over the world, including criminals of all types, and 11,888 murderers, many of whom killed more than one person. We had transgender for everybody, men and women sports, crime ravaging our cities, and the whole world was laughing at us as a nation, but not anymore. 2 years ago, our country was dead. Now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. America is respected like we have never been respected before. We have more money being invested in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. More Americans are working today than ever before. This week, it was announced that inflation saw the largest monthly decline in more than 6 years. Just happened. It was just given out. The media reported it, and we accept it. The best in 6 years. The tax cuts in our great, big, beautiful bill are saving hardworking families thousands and thousands of dollars, like with the provisions, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, along with the interest deduction on a loan used to purchase a car, but only if that car is made in America, and a 100% expensing for our job-creating businesses. Our stock markets are at their highest point in many years, but we can actually say of all time. And your 401ks, pensions, and retirement accounts are setting records every single day, the highest in history. For years, we paid the highest price for prescription drugs anywhere in the world. Now we pay the lowest price under my most favored nation's policy because I was able to get the rest of the world and the pharmaceutical companies to act responsibly. Drug prices are coming down by 70, 80, and 90%. TrumpRx.gov, this will ultimately reduce the cost of health care. You have to go to TrumpRx.gov and take advantage of it. But the cost of health care is coming way down because of what we've done with prescription drugs. And with Trump accounts, every child in America now has access to a tax-free investment account to save for their future. Billions and billions of dollars are being invested, put in by companies and individuals to take care of our children so that at age 18, they will have potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account, and they'll get off to a great start in life. So for that, go to trumpaccounts.gov and sign up your child or any child who'd like to sign up. Our previously wide open borders have been transformed into the most secure borders in the history of our country, with zero illegal aliens being admitted to the United States in the past 14 months. That is zero. Nobody thought it was possible.
Yes.
We had the worst border in the history of our country, and now we have the best. Crime is plummeting nationwide, with the murder rate at its lowest level since 1900, or more than 125 years ago. We're making a record investment in our armed forces, and we have the strongest and most powerful military by far anywhere in the world. I built it during my first term, and unfortunately, we're forced to use it now. We won in Venezuela, which is now working with us to produce millions and millions of barrels of oil. We are likewise winning big in Iran, and you will see the fruits of that labor very, very shortly. America is back and doing really well, but we still have a major challenge that must be urgently addressed, because no country can be great without fair and honest elections. You have to trust your country, because if there can be no trust, there can be no greatness. And that's very simple. No trust, no greatness. For many years, I've called for bold, swift, and decisive action to protect the integrity of America's elections. Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard. Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes and really exposes like levels never thought possible to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing. The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country, a standard, very pat line that was divvied out to say. The cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and 2020 campaign. They did not want, and they just didn't want it. They fought like hell not to have it, Donald Trump, to win, and for good reason. As the documents we are releasing show, CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent his re-election. Isn't that nice? Also, in mid-2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election itself. Separately, in mid-2019, the Chinese government's strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job. And they did everything possible to do exactly that, going on, this document says, and this is by the CIA, the strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America. The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. president and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him.
Interesting.
As many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA reporting. The name of the person doing the quote is now under review, but it gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden.
Interesting.
Documents show that during this period, dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing.
Let's take a quick break.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a bitch who is celebrating God, family, country, and the success column of working hard, playing hard Americans. He's a conservative blogger who would love you to subscribe and visit his website. It's ryanfsamuels.com. ryanfsamuels.com. A promotion for this Facebook page and a subscription to his blog is what I'm here to do. Because if he's contacted me, he's probably rock solid in the asset column, and you ought to join him at Ryan, R-Y-A-N-F, like in Fatuma, Samuels.com, ryanfsamuels.com. Uncle Ted reporting for duty. It's going to be the greatest hunting season of my life because I work hard and I play hard and I hunt hard and I live a hard American dream. It's perfect. Godspeed, Ryan. Live it up. ryanfsamuels.com. I'm going to go there and visit. Sounds like my kind of campfire.
These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI
treason
wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation, and this is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama to be burned. It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be at a different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that were supposed to burn the bags. But the findings are stunning. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people. Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning.
Treason.
The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it? Made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past. The fourth set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned. They couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes.
Yes.
Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments, Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th. Think of that, much more than 1 month. It took a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing. This is worse than any third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have. In a rare move, NBC and ABC Fake News have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is and they don't want to reveal it. They and others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use our public multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing. All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for multi-billion-dollar assets. Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, we should be together.
Save
Democrats,
America Act.
Republicans, Independents, everybody. And it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause. We should be united, not divided. In light of the brand new and irrefutable information I have revealed tonight, my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China and many others. We will be working closely to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch a stolen election again. Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states. If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states, and we are committing to fix it. And we're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest. I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately. But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Are you a citizen of our country, please? And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which if you watched California and so many other places, mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt. So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned. To all Americans, I ask you to pick up your phone tomorrow, call your representatives in the House and Senate, and demand that they pass the Save America Act without delay. Together, we will restore faith and confidence in our country, and we will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
We doing questions? I don't
All right,
think
you're
so.
listening in there to President Donald Trump giving his prime time.
Okay, so that's some news for us. I'm going to leave that just open in another screen. But it appears that there's some serious stuff going on with our elections, which we knew. Okay, couple of things to be cautious of. Donald Trump wants the Save America Act passed. I said that for those of you who are just jumping on now. I said that before he even started speaking. That this is good. I knew what it was going to be about. I kind of heard it through the grapevine, through some sources. And I knew it was going to be about the elections. We talk about the midterms almost every day in the show because that's how important it is to us, right? To the conservative movement, to the MAGA movement. Right now, it is extremely important that the Save America Act is passed. If what he's saying is true, and we're going to thoroughly look at this is going to consume my entire evening and day tomorrow, and this is probably what tomorrow's show is going to be on. But if what he's saying is true, and the CIA intentionally withheld information about China meddling in the United States election process from the president's daily brief, that's treason. And people should be held accountable, seriously held accountable.
My name is Alexander Goldberg. We have political analyst Brian.
Trying to see if he's going to come back on, but I don't think that he is. So that's a major issue because that would mean that members of the United States government or federal agencies or three-letter agencies or spies colluded with a foreign nation to overthrow a United States presidential election. That's a serious statement by Donald Trump. No wonder he had this whole big thing that he was going to come march out and talk about. And to say that certain news agencies aren't covering the president of the United States because he's talking about elections because they don't like the topic is even more concerning. How deep does this rabbit hole go? How many people were involved in this alleged scheme or cover up or whatever you want to call it in meddling with our elections? How many? How deep does it go? Is this a concerted, coordinated effort between the media, intelligence agencies, and politicians and foreign nations? Or is Donald Trump using this as leverage to put the thumb and the pressure on politicians to pass the Save America Act before the midterm elections? Two things could be true at once. Two things could be true at once. The left does not want the Save America Act passed. They don't. Requiring photo ID, there's no reason for it. There's no legitimate argument that you could make against IDing somebody before they vote. There's no legitimate argument. The only argument they have is, minorities, they don't have the capability to go out there and get their own ID. That's the only argument that they can make. But if they want to buy a pack of cigarettes or alcohol, they need ID, right? If they want to get a job, they need ID. If they want to do anything, they need ID. You need ID to do anything in the United States of America. If you want a gun, you want to get a permit, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, a motorcycle, a gun, you need identification. So there is no legitimate, logical explanation or reason that you could give for not requiring ID when you vote. Nothing. And the Democrats are on the ropes with this. And the reason they're on the ropes with this is because I think the statistic is, please feel free to fact check me. And don't forget, you can call into the show at 561-786-2916. We are live. The shows are live. That Trump speech was live. This is breaking news right now that nobody has heard before. So, but there's no reason unless you're cheating. And that is a statement that we say. Donald Trump said that. I've been saying that forever. Donald Trump has been saying that. J.D. Vance just said it on Joe Rogan's podcast. I was just listening to that today. That was going to be the topic for tonight. And then I realized that Donald Trump was going live, and I figured we would watch that. But what you're seeing is things being uncovered. And I hope that the evidence is there. They're releasing the files at whitehouse.gov. I'm going to pull them up. We're going to go over them. Let me see if I could find this. White House election files. Election integrity. Let me zoom in a little bit. I don't want to join the email list. Is that what happens when you go to my website? All right. Here it is. Election integrity. Ensuring the integrity of our elections is fundamental to preserving trust in American democracy. Following the 2020 presidential election, concerns about potential irregularities prompted detailed examinations of voting processes, data security, and registration practices across multiple states. Below, you can download documents and reports addressing key areas of election integrity. Vulnerabilities in electronic voting and ballot counting. Chinese acquisition and exploitation of America's voter data. Michigan voter registration investigation. Non-citizens on state voter rolls. So here's the speech we just watched. Vulnerabilities in electronic voting and ballot counting system. For years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems. We are releasing a series of previously classified intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the U.S. adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, and Iran, and North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. The documents also state we assess that centralized election-related data repositories such as voter registration databases, poll books, and official election websites are most vulnerable to exploitation. And adversaries could use access to these systems to disrupt election processes. Tonight, we are releasing all of these findings spanning from January 2020 to June of 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results. Today, we are releasing documents that show that the CIA obtained reporting of specific plot by the Maduro regime in Venezuela to do exactly that, conspiring to digitally rig our own country's elections in 2020. This reporting concluded precise details about methods the regime developed to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected, even with an audit. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to secure that our systems have never been hacked or compromised. And that this has been my argument the entire time. For those of you who watch this show, you have repeatedly heard me say, if it doesn't matter if there's, well, it does matter, but it does matter if there's widespread voter fraud or not, right? Forget about that. if the opportunity is there or the perception of the opportunity is there, then it's not secure enough. And it's a national security breach. It's a national security concern. We just saw a Chinese spy elected as a mayor of a city in California, to which she was just arrested for espionage. Now, did China meddle in that? Did China meddle in that election? I don't know. Here is the China acquisition and exploitation of American voter data. Over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information, including names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Members of the deep state in our own intelligence agencies work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020, when they discovered that tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states had been bought, stolen, or hacked by China, yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information hidden. That's treason. How deep does the rabbit hole go? Are they compromised by China, or did they solicit China to help them detain or overthrow an election? We don't know. So, full transparency, I don't know. This is a big data dump that's shocking, and it's abhorrent, and it's an existential threat to the United States of America. Our elections being unsecure is an existential threat to your individual rights and freedoms. If your elections can be stolen and your government can be overthrown by mail-in ballots and foreign nations' interference in our voting machines, which there was a plot in Venezuela to do, they're releasing, then you're not free. And that would explain some choices over the years. Here is the Michigan voter registration investigation. Even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out to Vote organization in Muskegon and were so concerned by what they found that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. These documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registrations for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to the number of applications they produced. The FBI agents working on the case believe that the crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation for years. Director Kash Patel is being directed to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes. Yes. Lock them all up. Charge them with treason, because that's what it is. Non-citizens on state voter rolls. Another concern we have called out and addressed on this show repeatedly. According to a DHS review of state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. 278,000 non-citizens are registered to vote in federal elections. How does that even happen? Those are just the ones they know about. And it happens because you don't need an ID to register to vote some places. You don't need an ID to vote some places. Since Democrats' states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher. Yet even this limited analysis found that more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote. So Democrat states aren't even cooperating. So that doesn't include California, which has the most egregious election process in world history. New York, Illinois, it's much bigger number. Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on voter rolls. And yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of non-citizenship, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly by mail. This should be concerning to everybody. I'm definitely concerned. But this is a smart move by Donald Trump. This is a good political play. So what he's doing is that he has to get the Save America Act passed. He has to get the Save America Act passed before the midterm elections. If he does not get the Save America Act passed before midterm elections, they're going to be in trouble. Along with, he's got to get the voter file, the gas prices down, inflation's down to 3.5. We just talked about. These are great steps. He is actively preparing for the midterms. We saw the gerrymandering, removing the Democrat gerrymandering, where they're like circling Democrats in key areas and just manipulating the entire system. We saw him unwind that. Birthright citizenship, he lost that battle in the Supreme Court. It's not something that I agree with, but we definitely covered it in a show and explained why it happened. But this is genius, because now there's something called the bully pulpit. Okay, so the bully pulpit is what the president has. This is why presidents usually get reelected, because they get free press, right? If I'm Joe Schmo and I'm running against Donald Trump, it costs me a significant amount of money and significant amount of time and energy to get in front of people and speak. The president just comes out, he walks out of the Oval Office and goes, "Hey," and the whole world is watching. It's everywhere, right? So they have the advantage of the bully pulpit. They get to speak and everybody's listening. So he's trying to get this sense of urgency to force Congress and the Senate to pass the Save America Act. Because if the Save America Act is passed, we won the gerrymandering. Even though we lost the birthright citizenship, the gerrymandering is going to give us a plus 10 seat in the House. Historically, we lose the midterms. Historically, the party of the president loses the midterms. It's only been won like once or twice in American history. Donald Trump is trying to break that. I just downloaded one of these files. It's too much for me to look at least right now. But go to whitehouse.gov/election integrity, and we are going to see here is the Democrats are coming out before Donald Trump even gave this speech, This is Chuck Schumer 3 hours ago. They're running cover. They are running cover before the speech even began. I'm just seeing this now. So 3 hours ago, Chuck Schumer said, tonight you're going to hear from Donald Trump. Let's just hear what he has to say.
Tonight, you will hear from a weak, flailing Donald Trump with a deeply unpopular agenda who knows he is destined for a resounding defeat in November. What is his response to his impending reckoning? To pull out every stop to cheat, to undermine the right to vote, rig the midterm elections in his favor, knowing massive losses are otherwise inevitable. Trump won't expose anything of substance about 2020. He'll just echo the same stale, baseless, pathetic lies he's repeated for 6 years.
How do you know what he's going to say? How do you know what he found? That is a key indicator that they're doing this before it even comes out. Now, it's different if he listened to the whole speech and then afterwards comes out, he said this, he said that. I'm looking at the documents. The document says X, Y, and Z. What he's telling you is not true. That's totally different. But to come out before Donald Trump even gives this speech and accuse him of lying before it even happened, that makes my antennas go way up.
So we must be clear-eyed. This is about laying groundwork to undermine the 2026 election before a single vote has been cast. An election that will bring accountability for the higher costs, the endless legal wars costing over $100 billion taxpayer dollars, and rampant corruption that he has unleashed on the American people. Trump knows he can't defend Republicans' disastrous record, so he's trying to discredit the voters who will judge it in November. The reasons his numbers are so low is because he's obsessed with bullshit like this instead of what Americans actually care about. Instead of confronting persistent inflation, rising gas prices, higher grocery bills, and
inflation was just released yesterday, Chuck. Lowest point in 6 years. So the lowest point since the last time Donald Trump was president. It's the lowest point in 6 years. And you want to say he's out here lying? You're lying. And you know what the other thing I love about these idiot politicians? Now all of a sudden they throw in a curse word every once in a while. They say BS or shit or something to make them sound more cool. Because you know who started doing that? Donald Trump. The president and the Congress people weren't saying swear words on national television. So you're following his lead. You know why? Because he's effective and it works. Out of control. Shut up, Chuck, idiot.
control housing costs, Trump and the GOP will launch a coordinated, multi-front campaign to subvert the will of the voters. They will apply endless pressure to pass the so-called SAVE Act,
correct,
the most devious voter suppression legislation in modern history.
The only thing it says is to require citizenship and voter ID. We did a whole episode on it. I broke it down line by line. I've read it myself. We read it together on the air. He's lying. He's lying. If it was actual real voter suppression, I would be on it like white on rice, dude. And I would be reporting it as the truth. He is full of it.
Aimed at disenfranchising tens of millions of American citizens. I say to Donald Trump, when it comes to the SAVE Act, the courts have rejected it, Congress has rejected it, even members of your own party have rejected it. So give it up. The SAVE Act ain't going anywhere. We live in the United States of America, where voters choose their leaders. Leaders do not choose their voters. Senate Democrats will fight like hell to preserve that principle and make sure our elections belong to the voters, not to Donald Trump. That's our sworn promise. And no matter what Trump says tonight, no matter how hard he tries to avoid the will of the American people, he will not be able to escape the inevitable.
No matter what he says.
Resounding defeat in November and his coronation as a lame duck president.
We'll see. I'm interested.
Today, I'm beyond
to see how the midterms are going to go. Gavin Newsom, same thing. They're all doing it. They're all coordinating it. Here is CNN 2 hours ago. It's from Gunther Eagleman.
As a president who has an approval rating stuck in the 30s and who faces what appears to be losses in the midterms, and we'll see, because an election's an election, people get to vote. He has made it his mission to cast doubt on that upcoming election, right? That's what all those things add up to. And damage may already have been done. Repeatedly saying that America's elections are rigged and broken and dirty has eroded confidence in the bedrock of American democracy. It has already done damage. Kevin Liptak is out front live outside the White House. And Kevin, what more are you learning about what Trump is going to say about elections tonight?
Yeah, we now understand.
They're running damage control before it's even said. This is at, let me see here. Bottom right corner under CNN. See it? 7:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Donald Trump's speech was at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're running damage control. These outlets refuse to even air the speech or cover the speech because they know they're done. They know that they're in for. The only thing that I hope happens is that we actually see some people be held accountable. I want people in handcuffs over this. If you were caught working with China to remove information about them meddling in our elections and remove it from the president's daily brief, you should be in jail for treason. And the penalty for treason is very high. It's one of the highest penalties that there are. It's a capital crime. If you worked with a foreign nation to subvert and overthrow and assist in hiding that subversion and overthrowing of an election from the sitting president of the United States, you should be held and charged with treason. No exceptions. No excuses, no BS. 7:04 p.m. Running cover.
It has already done damage. Kevin Liptak is out front live outside the White House. And Kevin, what more are you learning about what Trump is going to say about elections tonight?
Yeah, we now understand, Aaron, there are a few major buckets that the president plans to address in this speech. And one is this question of foreign interference. The president does plan to reveal what he says will be new information about foreign attempts to influence or interfere in U.S. elections, and in particular from China. Now, this is a question that has been relitigated over and over, including in that 2021 intelligence assessment. But the president will say that he has new information on that front. We also understand that the president plans to address this question of election systems vulnerability, including voting machines. Again, an area that has been repeatedly the subject of conspiracies, often fueled by President Trump himself. You know, the president has talked about this so much and hasn't been able to furnish any proof for his claims. The difference, according to White House officials in this speech, is that he will be providing evidence, and that evidence will be provided to the American people. It has been the product of this months-long work by a task force. It was headed by the conservative journalist John Solomon to go through intelligence, find areas that can be declassified. It was fueled along by the new acting director of national intelligence, Bill Pulte, who, when he came into this position, worked to find documents that would be able to fuel some of the president's claims about elections. Now, nothing that we have understood in our reporting about this speech tonight suggests that anything the president says will claim that the 2020 election results will have been different. There's nothing that we have seen in what we have been described that election would have turned out any differently. Of course, the real fear is that the president, in describing these vulnerabilities, is just trying to undermine confidence in elections writ large. Aaron.
Right.
Why would he want to undermine confidence in elections?
Well, certainly that's the outcome. And any country trying to influence foreign elections that wants a weaker U.S. democracy certainly will be celebrating to hear the president of the United States speak in a speech like this tonight.
They don't even know what he's going to say. They know the subjects he's going to talk about. It's mind-blowing that you can actually watch the conspiracy play out in front of your eyes.
You know, the only other
You can watch the whole thing play out in front of your eyes. Chuck Schumer 3 hours earlier, naming every lie. You don't even know what he said. I think we can get the Save America Act passed. And I've told you time and time again, I don't care where you live. I don't care who your representative is. You need to call them. You need to call them. I call my representative all the time. I call her all of the time. She knows who I am. So we have all these files. They're in zip files. There's hundreds of them. I'm trying to look at them. But here is... Who is this? It's these friggin' Twitter idiots. Here is... He's trying to... Let's watch this. Let's just watch the clip. This is from MS Now. Peppermint Patty. Let's hear what Peppermint Patty had to say. At least this is at 9:24 p.m. Right towards the end of his speech. Unless this was last night. We don't know. Let's listen to it.
What have you heard over the last, 10 minutes or so since we called out of that speech that's disturbing to you? What stuck out to you?
Well, it got worse. I mean, it's a little bit like trying to argue with like a raving crazy person standing naked next to you on the subway claiming they're Jesus Christ, that they're not actually Jesus Christ. Like, well, Jesus Christ was born 2,000 years ago and you're standing like it's so off the table of what is, plausible, rational. But one of the really insidious sections right after we got out is him basically saying.
So by them saying that they got out, I guess they turned it off. They're like, oh, turn this off. We're not going to air this to our listeners because they don't want their listeners to be exposed to the other side of the story. If you watch MSNBC, you have a very unique and alienated look at society. Because they're not showing you, they wouldn't even show you what he said. But they'll come on and tell you why he's wrong. But they won't show you what he said.
Essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, that a whole bunch of foreign entities, Iran, China, I think North Korea, have the ability, the capability of essentially a mass hack of the voter system to change over votes. Now, my understanding is that that's just completely not true, that there is no assessment of that. I'm not an expert in cybersecurity, but what's in
9:24 p.m. He released the documents. The documents that are allegedly backing this up. I haven't looked at them. He hasn't looked at them, obviously, but he's saying that they don't exist. There's no evidence of that. Notice how he's not saying the president dropped files. We're going to look at them and we're going to go over them. I don't know what they say, but he's not, because he's pushing his agenda.
Insidious about that, right, is he's creating the rationale to claim a loss is the result of some hack, right? That's very clearly what this is about, right? So he's trying to undermine confidence in the system. He's trying to create some sense that there's vulnerabilities there so that in the future, a loss, he can say, was the result of this nefarious foreign actor. And it's very clear that that's what that section of the speech is trying to do.
No, or he's trying to create urgency to get the Save America Act passed so that we can have secure elections. Get this through your head. Lost. He doesn't need to do that. He's said the same thing 100 times. If Donald Trump has said this since 2020, 6 years ago, why would he need to come out, drop all of this evidence, and get a speech just so he can blame it on voter fraud if he lost? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. But you can't rationalize with an irrational person. And these Democrats are focused on their view. They're focused on what they want to get across to the American people. They're focused on their reality, not the reality. And the fact that like people
okay now for president to call.
Here's Adam Schiff 6 hours ago. Oh, this is a different tweet. I don't want to misquote him. Here is his tweet for today. Let me see if I can pull it up here. As you watch President Trump's address tonight, keep this in mind. Trump was the guy badgering the Republican Secretary of State to find 11,760 votes in the 2020 election that did not exist. That would have been just enough to defeat Biden in that state. He was lying then, and he will be lying now, both to continue to contest the last election he lost and to set the stage to contest the midterm elections to come. 4 hours ago. Laying the groundwork, he's lying before he even makes a statement. Before he even makes a statement, he's lying. I mean, if I'm that worried about what somebody's about to say, it's because I'm trying to stop them from what they're saying. They're basically doing exactly what they're accusing him of doing. He's coming out to make this speech. Donald Trump is coming out to make this speech so that later he can say that the election that he lost was rigged. Christine said, wasn't there a request from the administration for voter rolls? Who is not complying? I don't know who's... Christine, thank you for your comment. I don't know exactly who is not complying. If you go to whitehouse.gov, you can look at everything. It just released. I don't have 100% of the information. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But it said that a number of Democrat states are not complying with the voter rolls. So I'm going to assume, obviously, one of those is California. So what they found with the states that complied about the voter rolls is that 278,000 non-citizens were on their voter rolls in the states that complied. I don't have a list of the ones that did. But I can tell you, New York and California did not comply or assist in this investigation. Why would they? They're completely against it. So, but 278,000 is astonishing, which means it's completely so much more in those other states. If those are conservative states that kind of have security in their polls. Like, for instance, like in Florida, you got to present your ID to vote. That's where I live. I live in Florida. So when I go to vote, and I always vote, and everybody should vote, then you have to present your ID. They don't just let you vote. Here is another one. This is July 14th. Here it's Jen Psaki again. So this is 3 days ago.
But look, there's talk that he might try to declare me and Raphael Warnock illegitimate senators. Obviously, the president has no power to do that, but he does have the power to try to intimidate people. He's demonstrated his will to abuse power. I expect him to use whatever he puts out there on Thursday as a pretext, either for some attempted unconstitutional use of federal power to interfere in the election, or to give his proxies and loyalists in state and local jurisdictions some cover for whatever they might attempt, or to lay the groundwork for challenging the result. And the bottom line is that this is a real and live threat to voting rights in the United States right now.
No, it's not.
Perhaps the most significant we've faced since the 1960s. And I'm asking folks.
Oh, since the 1960s, since Jim Crow. That's what you're saying. Since the 1960s, since the Democrats suppressed the voting rights of the African American community. Since the Democrats made impossible questions and tests that African Americans had to try to complete in order to get voting rights. Since the Democrats suppressed voting power. Is that what you're saying? Since the Democrats. Okay, got it. After your party did that.
Defend voting rights and get out the vote in Georgia at electjohn.com. But look.
John Ossoff, Georgia. The thing that drives me nuts. The thing that drives me nuts about the Democrats is they know that they're lying. They know that they're lying, and it's obvious that they know that they're lying every time that they speak. They just lie through their teeth. Here is Rudy Giuliani. I think this is back in 2020. Talking about the election.
This was a stolen election.
This looks to me like it is the end of what has been a 4.5, the end game to a 4.5 year long effort to overthrow the president of the United States. It looks like it's exactly that.
They knew they were going to need that room to make up for his margins. And here's where they got screwed up. The margins were much bigger than they anticipated. They were figuring they had to make up a couple 100,000 votes in Pennsylvania, maybe 100,000 in Michigan, maybe 80 or 90,000 in Wisconsin. Now they're looking at numbers like 800,000, 300,000, 400,000. They had to do plenty of cheating in the middle of the night in order to catch up. And that's why they kept the Republicans out. Dominion is a Canadian company, but all of its software is Smartmatic software. So we're using a foreign company. They were founded as a company to fix elections. What the heck was Georgia doing hiring this company? I'll tell you what they were doing. The lobbyist for Dominion was the former chief of staff for the governor. Why are we using a foreign company with connections to Venezuela? First of all, the machines can be hacked. There's no question about that. Their machines can be hacked.
This is him in 2020.
Far worse than that.
And by the way, the states, as you well know now, they have no ability to audit meaningfully the votes that are cast because the servers are somewhere else and are considered proprietary, and they won't touch them. It won't permit them being touched.
We're up to about 623,000 unlawful ballots in Pennsylvania and about 320 unlawful ballots in Michigan. And in Michigan, of course, we have a couple of extraordinary witnesses, one of whom was a Democrat who worked for 30 years for the city of Detroit, who will explain that she started getting trained in how to cheat in September of 2020. They'll also testify to 100,000 ballots being shipped in about 4 a.m. after they had stopped counting. And they got into a panic because they thought they had made up the lead and Trump was still ahead by 120,000 votes. So they brought these ballots in cars that had trucks that had out-of-state license plates. They piled them on the tables, and from the witnesses that were there, from whom we have affidavits, every single vote was for Biden, and the ballots looked totally fraudulent. Only one person voted for, the rest of the ballot empty. Nobody bothered to look or check whether or not the envelope was valid. They just threw it away immediately. There was no Republican observer, as the law of Michigan requires, and it's a misdemeanor not to do it, plus about 140,000 more that were counted deliberately out of the sight of any Republican who could check the validity of the ballot. This was a stolen election. I know the The phony elites don't want to hear it. But this was a stolen election. The same pattern exists in Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin.
And I think Rudy, the fact of the matter is this looks to me like it may be, and I say maybe, I'm not suggesting it is.
Sure.
But following the operation as when President Trump was a candidate to block his presidency, to follow with a special counsel. First 11 months of investigation.
This is so everything is still aligned from what Rudy Giuliani was saying 6 years ago. Do you know what they did to Rudy Giuliani? They took his law license away. He was disbarred. This is the guy who ended the mafia in New York City. They took his law license away. He was the mayor of New York City. The New York State Bar took his law license away because of what he said about the election. Do you know what they did to people like me on Facebook and YouTube? And this is before Rumble existed. They suspended our accounts. They kicked us off. You couldn't talk about it. You still can't. I can almost guarantee you I got flagged already on YouTube or somewhere about this, and they're going to take the video down. If there is an entire mechanism and an entire machine that is silencing and shutting down people who are questioning what happened and who are investigating what happened, that is a sign of guilt. This isn't, Rudy Giuliani isn't out there who all of a sudden now becomes a Nazi and a serious racist or got caught committing violent acts or fraud or anything unethical. He's asking questions. What he's supposed to do? He's Donald Trump's attorney. Oh, we don't like what you're doing. You're getting too close. We're going to take your law license away. Now you can't do anything. Christine said, should not be a misdemeanor. What do you plead that down to? Should be a felony. I agree. It's a serious national security issue. It 100% should be a felony. It's a serious, serious crime. Hey, Michelle, welcome on. Michelle said, that's right. I forgot about that. I think you're talking about Rudy Giuliani. I'm just getting up to these comments now. If an entire system and mechanism is trying to shut you down and silence you
on what the president
over looking into something, if all of the tech companies have a concerted and coordinated effort to silence the people, then that's a sign of guilt. I'm sorry. That's seriously like, first of all, if I won the presidential election and everybody started saying it was stolen, I wouldn't care. I still won the presidential election. I'm still the president. It doesn't matter what you think or what you pretend. Go ahead, talk about it. That's what it's about. It's the First Amendment right to free speech. But we did not see that. We saw the Biden administration infiltrate Twitter, send the FBI, their Gestapo, into Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and threaten their employees if they didn't take down certain content. It started with the election because they had to silence the opposition. Then they had to do the same thing with COVID. Here is CBS. This is 16. I don't know when I think this is 16 minutes ago, which is good. That's what you should do. Wait till you hear what he says instead of coming out and saying, "Oh, Donald Trump is going to come out and he's going to make a speech and he's going to lie to you." You don't know that. Let's listen to this.
I as an American, not as an elected official, I was embarrassed that the President of the United States went before our whole country and networks like yours carried this as news, as opposed to a rehash of falsehoods. And it is incumbent upon you and any responsible journalist to push back on these falsehoods. I've been either chairman or vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee for the last decade.
If I may, on that point, since you raised it.
If I may just finish, sir. If I may, sir, finish, sir. If we don't call into question these falsehoods. This president is he's going to lose a free and fair election. And unless responsible journalists and the American people step up and say, our system, which has stood the test of time, is not going to be undermined by this kind of falsehoods, then, we all will have to live with those responsibilities.
Senator, what I wanted to interject is you are calling for context and analysis and pushback. You are on the show right now giving it and acting as though it's not happening. So I just want to underscore that the reason you're on is because we agree, you and I, that this is a vitally, vitally important topic. And the president has a terrible track record on it, as we said at the top, and as we've been trying to.
This is what
buttress and
I'm going to finish it, then we're going to talk about it.
Fact check and give context and analysis for throughout.
Where would you like me to start on the level of falsehood?
The Democrats are so used to the media. We're going to watch that again. Because what he just said and what you just saw and what I just saw for the first time unfold between your eyes is absolutely horrific and telling. What this senator just did is say, I'm embarrassed that the president did that. I'm also embarrassed that you even aired it. Well, first of all, we're the news, bro. This is the president of the United States speaking. We're going to hear it be said. We're going to analyze it. We're going to fact check it. And that's why you're here to talk about it. But they don't want to do that. This plays into what I'm saying. No, silence him. We want you to work with the Democrat Party to silence them. That's fascism. That's totalitarian control. That is everything that is wrong with the Democratic Party. That is the most un-American thing that can be done. Listen to it again. Listen to it.
And a matter of fact, before I start, as an American, not as an elected official, I was embarrassed that the president of the United States went before our whole country and networks like yours carried this as news.
And networks like yours carried this as news. Your network shouldn't have carried this. You shouldn't have aired it. You should have been a good little boy like MSNBC and shut it down. How dare you? How dare you oppose us?
As opposed to a rehash of falsehoods. And it is incumbent upon you and any responsible journalist to push back on these falsehoods. I've been either chairman or vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee for the last decade.
If I may, on that point, since you raised it.
If I may just finish, sir. If I may, sir, finish, sir. If we don't call into question these falsehoods, this president he's going to lose a free and fair election. And unless responsible journalists and the American people step up and say, our system, which has stood the test of time, is not going to be undermined by this kind of falsehoods, then, we all will have to live with those responsibilities.
Senator, what I wanted to interject is you are calling for context and analysis and pushback. You are on the show right now giving it and acting as though it's not happening. So I just want to underscore that the reason you're on is because we agree, you and I, that this is a vitally, vitally important topic. And
Good. I'm glad he pushed back at him, at the senator like that. What these Democrats have to realize is that those days are over. We're on to your game. We're not going to be silenced. Nobody's even listening to you anymore. They're listening to podcasts like mine all across the country. There's thousands of us. That's what people are listening to. They're not listening to CNN or MSNBC or any of these lunatic organizations that are just there to push a political agenda. That's all they're doing. They're not seeking the truth. It's absolutely outrageous. And you just saw it. You just saw it here live. We're going to dig into these files and we're going to find out more about it. And we're going to report on it. And if there's nothing there and if it's nonsense, I'm going to tell you. I've gone against Donald Trump 100 times. 100 times. Donald Trump Jr. did an endorsement for the show. It's in the intro. I've played the video. He's been on the show, and it was during the election, and he was like, "Oh, I hope you're as MAGA as it sounds." And I said, "Well, I'm not. I'm just a normal conservative. I'm not necessarily a MAGA, but I do support your dad in this election. I hope that he wins, but I will call him out if I don't like it. And he said, and Donald Trump Sr. said, well, this is America, so you can believe what you want anyway. I said, yes, that's correct. And then proceeded to do the endorsement for the show. Because I will call him out. It's my job to seek the truth. I'm not a strong arm for the Republican Party. I'm not even a registered Republican. I'm a libertarian. But I always vote Republican because the Libertarian Party is a soup sandwich that I won't be part of. I should change my registration. But it's a smart move by Donald Trump. He just applied maximum pressure to pass the Save America Act. He wins either way. The Democrats were running defense before he even gave the speech. They're all coordinating. They got their group chat. And they're like, so Donald Trump's he's got all these files and all this information. No problem. We'll just go out and tell everybody he's lying. We'll just tell everybody he's lying. Wait now, or should we do it after? No, do it now. Our followers are idiots. They don't know. Yeah, do it now. Yeah, what's wrong with now? What's wrong with now? But he hasn't said anything yet. Get out in front of it. That's how scared they are. And then, Senator, what should I do? Go on television and yell at the reporter for airing it. What? It's a news station. The president gave a speech. You're a senator and you're upset that they aired the speech? Red flag. Major red flag. That tells me he's onto something. And that tells me there's something there. Thank you guys for tuning in. We went a little bit over time today, but that's fine. We had to cover the speech and then we had to cover everything else. I didn't even get a chance to look at the documents that they released. I will be looking at them tomorrow. We may do a show on the documents tomorrow and recover this again just because I want to make sure that we have everything. Hey, we're live every night, man. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a ton of people on now. I hate to get off, but I do have to get off and get this uploaded. Go to ryanfsamuels.com. Subscribe to the news channel. Subscribe. Follow this channel wherever you're listening. YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. Facebook's still my biggest platform. Can't get any growth on YouTube. Can't. I posted a video the other day. It got 1,000 views in like 30 seconds. And then just stopped. So they're throttling it, right? I mean, that doesn't happen. Normally, if it's slow, you'll get 1,000 views over 24 hours. But 1,000 views in 30 seconds, there's like, and then stopped. That's not how it works. So they're obviously throttling me. So that's not where I'm investing a lot of my time or money. So just be aware of that, okay? If you want to follow me on YouTube, you can watch the show on your TV. Watch the show on your TV, chat on the phone, call into the show, 561-786-2916. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you tomorrow night. Maybe the topic will be this, or it might be J.D. Vance, who went on Joe Rogan's podcast, who said some crazy things. I listened to it. He said some wild things about UFO files and all sorts of stuff that I was going to do tonight. Michelle said, I can't find you on Facebook. The Ryan Samuels Show. It's the Ryan Samuels Show. So search the Ryan Samuels Show. You'll find it on Facebook. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow night. Do not miss it. It's going to be great. God bless you. God bless our troops. And God bless these great United States of America. Good night.